Welcome everybody to the Not Very Good with Words Extravaganza. We're joined by James, Beater,
sorry,
and Zach. Mr. Taters, can you feel it yet?
The talking slow and the awkward atmosphere. It's perfect. It's very weird. It's kind of surreal to like do this on webcam.
Yeah, it's
not
like
used to seeing your guys' faces all the time here.
I have a great show for you this week. It's something about video games and something about this other guy over here.
Hold up, I could barely see him. I thought you said you got rid of your shitternet, or is that your webcam doing that? I can't see him. Oh, it's just like really blocky, unless...
I would say everyone looks fine to me. I can see everyone clearly here.
Oh, I
really
can see Austin.
blurry.
I just can't see the guy that he's talking about in the back.
Fuck.
Oh, you're being stupid. All right, just carry on.
Before we start, dude, I wanted to say thanks to Astro for editing the last podcast. She really saved us. I also want to say thank you to Cade because we did a bad job with him last week. So, Mr. Taters.
Hi.
Tell me about yourself, sir, before I open up the pit of despair and drop you into it.
Oh no. So hi, my name is Zach, or Taters, or Mr. Taters, whichever. I'm a game developer, currently working at Deep Silver Volition, and working on my own indie project, as well as worked on indie game in the past called Rogues Like Us.
How much are you able to tell us about what you're working on at Volition?
Not a lot, really.
Can you tell us what you're working on?
I'm pretty sure I can, but I'm also a little paranoid about it. But so I mean, I can say we are working on a Saints Row game. That's what I can say. And then beyond that, I think that's pretty much all I can say.
Can you tell me if there's a dubstep gun in it?
I can't say anything.
What are you making in your personal time?
Yeah, so I'm working on a turn-based RPG. So something kind of in the vein of Paper Mario, Final Fantasy X, and Undertale are kind of like big inspirations on it.
Do you have a name for it?
Yeah. Currently, the name for it is called Memory Leak. I don't know if that'll stick, but I think that's kind of what it's going to be in the end.
Does it have something to do with RAM?
Hopefully there won't be any. What's the art style that you're going for? Are you going for like a 3D or like 2D side scroller thing like Paper Mario?
Yeah, so I was thinking it'd be like full 3D.
Okay.
I do think like similar to like Paper Mario, or any of the games that I mentioned, it'd be probably like overall kind of room based as you'd move from like, an environment to environment. So like that'd be like the main structure of it, but it would be like full 3D. Like all the characters would be 3D. And I was thinking like it'd probably be like somewhat cell shaded, like not quite to the degree of like Wind Waker, but like a little bit more toned back from that, but kind of like had that cartoony sheen on a lot of things.
What game engine are you going to be using?
I'm using Unity.
Okay. What's your opinion on Unity?
Like, generally speaking, I like it. It does kind of have the issue of, and I think the most recent version has kind of alleviated this a little bit, but I've still kind of run into the problem where Unity like seems to like start up a lot of different features and then not exactly finish the implementation of them. They give out preview packages of a lot of different parts that, and some of them are kind of feel like they fill a similar niche. Like currently, like they've had like their like new sort of UI tools have kind of been under development for like a year-ish, but like you can sort of grab them, but like you can't actually do anything with them. That's a little weird, but I'm starting out kind of negative because generally speaking, I like Unity quite a bit. It generally gets kind of a bad rap because it's one of those things of like, it's very accessible, so a lot of asset flip kind of games get made with it. Yeah, but like, all sorts of good stuff is also made with it. Like most recently, like Fall Guys is a game that was made with Unity.
Oh, I didn't know that was in Unity.
Me neither. What do you think of like C# as a programming language for game development? Because I know that's what Unity does. And personally, I've only ever used C# for like, ASP.NET stuff.
So it's kind of weird because you may actually know more on this than I do, because I'm not primarily, or at least I haven't primarily been a programmer in the past. So this is really the most I've used of a programming language besides like Game Maker's language.
Okay, yeah, I think I know what that is.
Yeah, no, I mean, generally I like C#. It's just hard for me to compare it to really anything else because I haven't really seriously attempted really any kind of game development besides with like GameMaker the one time. And so I haven't touched like C++ or I don't know if Python's really used to make games much these days.
I wouldn't assume so, at least anything big, since C or Python's got like a lot of overhead, so it's not really like low level enough for it to be like really optimal for fast running code.
Okay.
Specifically, because I know with like Python, it does some like really weird stuff with your variables where like there aren't like technically variables, they're just like a bunch of like objects that it makes. So that's like how you can get away with like, oh yeah, my string can also be a number for some reason.
Okay.
Me and Beter recently like got on the dev team.
Oh yes.
Cool. For the game I was making in Unreal, and we spent like 2 weeks trying to figure out how to get it to work where we could edit everything together, and then that all fell through. So now we're starting over in Unity.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't really like I don't know, like when I just don't like the Epic Games launcher at all. It just runs so slow for whatever reason. It's like I'll click something and it takes like a couple seconds for it to like change the page, or like scrolling through feels really choppy. Not sure what's up with Epic Games launcher, so I was glad to be able to uninstall it from my computer.
I'd gotten really used to Unreal, but man, it had some problems.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing where like every engine has a whole lot of strengths and weaknesses. Like I feel like the I was gonna say 4, but now I'm blanking out on like what I meant by the 4th one. But like, because I know that there's like, of course you got Unreal in terms of like, free game making engines. You have like Unreal, you have Unity. I know some people have been talking a lot about Godot recently, like GameMaker Studio, and then I mean there is definitely a bunch of others. There's the trade-off of like the financial cost between them both, where Unity's a little bit more like you kind of don't have to really pay much at the beginning, but then you kind of gotta pay for Pro if you want to like have access to certain features. While like Epic is kind of, or Unreal, which is owned by Epic, is kind of like you don't have to pay. Well, you don't have to pay anything at all to get access to everything, but then like later on they take like a flat percentage.
I think it's like 30%, 40% of whatever you earn. They just take.
I don't think it's that extreme.
I'm thinking of Steam. Steam takes 30% of what you earn.
Yeah. I think they've like lowered it for like big AAA developers. Like, and then Unreal does kind of like a whole thing where it's like, or maybe I'm thinking of the Epic Store, which is 12%, and then Unreal, games made with Unreal is always, they take 5%, and then it's like if you have your game in the Epic Store, that 5% gets rolled into that 12%. But what I was going to say is, I recently did actually make a small project with Unreal, and like I'm sure it would, if I spent more time with it, I'd get used to it, but like there was a lot of it that just wasn't really clicking with me. But this is also me coming from the background of like working in Unity from like all of college, so like 8 years of being like, this is the game engine that I use. This is the default game engine. It's fine.
Yeah, like my big problem with it was there's not a whole lot of documentation out on the web that's really new. Everything was like from like 2014 and not answered on some forum. Just you're left hanging out way back when, and we just like couldn't find any answers. Like with the collab project, Unity has like a whole collaboration add-on you can download and work together with, and Unreal was like they had things like that, but they wouldn't tell you what they were. And had people on Twitter telling me about like you gotta have VPNs, but sometimes those don't work. So having the other person in the same house as you might work to be on the same network. And I was like, well, that's not a possibility. Beter lives 12 hours away from me.
Yeah, it's quite far. What was it? I'm not going to ask specifically about the game you're working on, but I'm just like more curious about like the development process that you guys go through, like code review or like the repos you guys use. So like,
at Volition?
So, actually, first question I have is, do you like log into like a virtual machine at Deep Silver or like Volition to like get your work done when like during work hours, or do you just use your personal computer?
Yeah, you mean for like how we've been doing with like
with work at home.
Volition I think has been really good about how they've been handling this. Like it was like pretty early on. It was like when things were starting to get kind of rough that they were like, it's like, all right, there's a work from home you guys want to do, and then like a week later, mandatory, everyone go home. It's like, all right, fair enough. We use like an application to like, so I'm signing into a computer that's like in the office, and I'm hoping that none of this is a problem that I'm talking about this. I don't think it would be, but
well, if it is, we'll take it out of the podcast.
Yeah,
it's
we can
all
always
edited.
edit stuff out.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it's fine, but yeah, so we've just been working remotely that way. I know some people like have brought like their work machines home with them. There's I think a few people that do work in the office that kind of can only do their job from there, but at this point it's like so isolated that it's not a huge deal, I'm sure, because there's only like maybe a dozen or so people in the office.
Now, is this, so I'm pretty sure like Volition, like, which is okay, so is Volition like a side like studio from Deep Silver, or are they Deep Silver?
So yeah, this is kind of like the whole history of like Deep gets into the whole history of like companies owning companies and Deep and like all that stuff, because like, so yeah, Volition is technically owned by Deep Silver, and then Deep Silver is owned by THQ Nordic, I believe, and then THQ Nordic is owned by Embracer Group.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a few branches.
Normal THQ isn't around anymore, is it?
Yeah, the original THQ did go bankrupt a while back, and then I believe what happened is Nordic slowly kind of acquired a lot of THQ's old properties, and then kind of just kind of rebuilt that brand and rebranded themselves as THQ Nordic.
I really only know THQ from them making all the SpongeBob games when I was a little man.
Yeah, for the remake for Battle for Bikini Bottom was pretty good.
Now, when you got onto Volition, did they like tell you they're like, oh yeah, this is what you're working on, or did you like have a choice in like what project you wanted to work on?
I don't know if I should say anything in regards to that.
Okay, yeah. I just like know that like at places like Valve, they like have like a list of projects and they're like, hey employee, you do you. So I didn't know what other companies were like.
There's not a whole lot of companies like Valve.
That's true. So are you allowed to talk about like what repository you guys use? Like if you guys use something like Git?
I don't feel like this. I feel like this is a common application, so I don't feel like there's any problem with me sharing this. We use Perforce.
Oh, okay. This one I feel like probably won't be able to be answered, but I'll ask. Is the engine that you guys use like an in-house engine? Or is it like you guys use like Unreal or something? I know that one might be a little
I'm not
bit.
sure if I can. I'm not sure if I can talk about that. Unfortunately, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I understand. There's a lot of. I mean, like you said.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to land you in like federal prison for.
Oh no!
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you'll go to video game prison where you have to hit A and W to escape really fast.
Oh no!
Yeah, you get stuck in a quick time event for the rest of your life.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Fate worse than death.
Have you seen that Spider-Man GIF? Or the Spider-Man quick time event where you miss the event, so you fall down flat on his face and then the building blows up?
Yeah.
That would be you in the prison. And then you just relive that.
Yeah. I can't hit the A button. It's broken. I don't know.
So this one also, because I know like the next gen consoles are coming out, and I assume that you guys would have to work with them or like have some kind of like dev thing that you get, like dev console you guys would have to work on. But then again, I'm pretty sure you can't answer that one either.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. This one I think you can answer because you worked on other projects involved with this. But like, for example, like when you worked on Rogues Like Us, like when it came to like programming controllers, was that difficult?
Yeah, like That would mostly be something that I didn't really handle. Although I did do some finagling with it. I think when I had to do some of like the most recent patch for rogues, and yeah, kind of, because it was like it was just like how the UI was handled. It was like very there was like, you know, cases for each UI set depending on the controller. So there was things I had to kind of like plug in and change, but that was kind of me monkeying around with code that I didn't really make, and I just was kind of like going in there and like piecing things together after the fact.
Rogues Like Us was developed in Unity, right?
I actually wanted to ask a little bit about that. I wanted to know what all you did on that game. Were you a programmer? Were you a music man? I think you told me one time you were a music man.
Partially. I did a few songs for the soundtrack. I didn't do all of it, but yeah, I did a lot of different things on Rogues. I made a lot of the weapon art for it. I made a lot of the armor sets. I wrote a lot of it, like 90% of the writing. Did a bunch of the animations, animated a few of the enemies, and like all the character animations that you see. I'm trying to think of what else. Made a few sound effects here and there. I did piece together some of the buildings, like all the interior artwork that you see, like when you go inside like all the different buildings. That I made all that. So I was kind of just all over the place on it.
How long were you guys working on that game?
So it would have been 2 years after the Kickstarter, and then it was largely like, you could even argue it's like, so 2 years on like kind of Rogues more properly, like when it was kind of becoming like what the game is today. And then we worked on it like it originally started as like a school project. That was like our final for the game dev classes at MSU. So we ended up working like for the first, like it was like originally like what they did was they would, for like our capstone project, it would be you would work with, like your team would work with a outside studio or company, and you'd work with them to develop some kind of project. And it's actually really cool in this kind of like weird full circle way. Like I wasn't involved with this team, but Volition is actually like one of the groups that does work with the MSU students and do that. And like, while I wasn't in that Volition group, I actually was on the team of the Volition people that were helping the students this year. Weird full circle. But yeah, so we started it, and that became a game originally called Dungeoneers, which is unfortunately no longer playable because it was kind of tied to a central server, and it was kind of this whole weird thing of where like everyone played a character where everyone played the same character, like leveled up the same character. It was an interesting experiment, and then eventually we made like the offline version of that, which is similar to it. And I still have, like, I'm sure the demo version of it, which is like where Rogues was starting to become like Rogues, in that it's like its art style shifted a bit, and like that character model, the initial, like now the main blocky character model that you see, that kind of came into that. Then we just kind of kept working on it. Pretty much like a member of a group proposed like, hey, we should maybe try doing a Kickstarter and see if we can develop this more. Then yeah, that worked out. A lot of like family and friends like kicked in, as well as, you know, various people from around the world, which was crazy because I remember like, yeah, like just seeing, you know, backers come in from, or like, you know, sales being made in like, you know, like Japan or something. And it's like, oh wow, this is really surreal. This is really cool. And then yeah, we worked on it from like the end of 2016 to like first quarter of 2018, and then we released. I think it was like in May.
What's your opinion on MSU's like game development like program? Because that's where I'm planning on going, because right now I'm going to like the community college right next to MSU, and then I'm just like working up on my computer science degree so I can get those credits to transfer over to MSU. Just save some money.
Like overall, I thought it was good. Like I think like all the faculty there did a good job. There's definitely an element of like, it's like, I think everyone did a good job teaching, but there is definitely an element of like, what you're putting in is what you're going to get out kind of thing.
Okay.
And I do know that currently, like, while I didn't, study under them, but I know that some of the people there are like very good at what they do, and the people that were there when I was there were also very good at what they do. But just like, I think it's one of those things where like, as I'm leaving, it's like, look at all the cool stuff they're getting. Where it's like, yeah, there's like this big center room now that was mostly just kind of like a large lecture hall kind of room that's in like the middle of the communication building. That got all converted into like this big kind of like, that got converted into this big kind of like, it's got like big glass windows now, but it's basically a big tech lab, and there's some really cool stuff in there. It's just like where like they have like really high-end computers. They had access to like Cintiq tablets. I think there's like there's a small like mocap studio in there, and it's just like all this really cool stuff that's like, yeah, didn't have access to that. But yeah, no, overall, like really positive things about my time going through the program there.
Did you ever go to like Sparta Hack, like the hackathon that they hosted there at MSU?
I didn't do that, but I was part of, because at that point, like it was like programming. Oh God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm still kind of like that, but it's like I kind of maybe have a bit more of a grasp on it. But I was part of the game development like club there, Sparta Soft.
I'm trying to think,
do, like game jams and all that stuff.
I think you're the only person I would like know that was a part of it, like the game development club. I don't think I know anybody else that's in it. I'm trying to think. I don't think I do, because most of the people I know at MSU and like computer science and stuff are like part of like the mobile app development stuff, or like web apps, or physics simulation. I think it's really interesting because like that's where I want to go now, is into like towards game development, because I've spent a lot of time in like business stuff, like developing web apps for like the community college I work at. I don't like it very much anymore. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool working with all these like JavaScript APIs like Angular, Node. But now I'm bored of it. I want to I don't know, games I feel like I would never get bored of. So not just because of like playing them, but like I always find like the process of like, I don't know, I'm like a computer hardware nut. So I would love to be able to do some kind of like optimization programming where I get to work with like some lower level stuff. That's my goal, but who knows if I'm
so glad you decided to be on my team, because I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah, I'm not, because I think like you've done game development, Zach, and like what's the most important part when it comes to like making sure your game runs well?
Oh, I don't know if I could really answer that question well, because honestly, I don't know. But I guess one thing that I do know is just like general kind of good programming practice is like, keep your update functions like as minimal and as clean as possible, since those are things that are, running every single frame, like 60 times a second potentially. So I want to say it's just like use as much as you can, use the minimum amount of resources, where it's like, particle effects, anything like that, or any object that you're spawning, make sure it gets deleted or removed, which now that I'm thinking about it, there's a whole thing with that where it's like you don't want to, where I think like if you don't delete things in the right way, things can I think like cache data can build up. I'm not really clear on that. I'm still learning a lot personally, because it's just such a huge topic, and there's like so many different disciplines that go into it.
So like now that you work at like Volition, I'm like, when it like in programming, there's always somebody like that knows more than you. Is that like ever really intimidating for you, or like does it ever make you like anxious, like that you're like, oh my God, I'm not like at the level I need to be? Because I feel it all the time where I am, because like there's people in my department that have been like doing this stuff for like, I don't know, like 30, 40 years. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to program in COBOL. And I'm like, huh? I know what COBOL is, but I would not be able to program in it for the life of me.
Yeah, like that's definitely a thing of just being like, is where it's crazy like how much people know. Because like I can say like what I do currently. So my stuff that I've done at Volition is I originally got hired on for QA, so quality assurance, and then moved on to helping out with vehicle art. And currently I'm doing some stuff with character art. So it's kind of character art currently, but also a bit like tech art in that regard. So I can't be I don't know how specific I can be on that, but I help the existing art assets kind of get into the. I'm sorry, getting back to the main question
I mean, we've already found out enough. Confirmed, there's vehicles in the game.
Oh no.
There is a game in the game. We know.
Yes, there's a game. Shoot, what was it like?
I'm like sweating for a moment where I'm like, oh god, can I actually confirm that? I'm like, oh wait, no, we talked, like I was able to be on like Volition's stream a while ago, and I talked about that role, so I was like, okay, good. Yeah, I'll probably run some of the things I'm talking about by a friend later on and be like, was that fine to say? And I'm sure most of everything I've said is totally fine, but yeah, no, like absolutely, that's always a thing where it's like, because there's so many people that are super smart at Volition and just, you know, wider like games as a medium, where it's just like it's crazy to see like all the things that people make, and it's always just like, it's like, yeah, since I'm very much just kind of like, I feel like a jack of all trades, that it's just like, wow, look at all these really cool things that I don't know how to do yet, but you know, one day. So I'm kind of like programming with me right now in general, where I'm just kind of like, you know, picking away at that now with the game on kind of a daily basis, and just definitely learning new stuff every day.
James, did you want to say anything? I don't know. You haven't spoken in a little while.
I just could I could see in you how excited you were and how invested you were into this. So I was just like, Beater is having a field day with this.
Dude, so I could ask questions for days.
Because I guess it's probably kind of evident here, but I am not. I do not do game development in the slightest.
You do play games though, right?
I do play games. I do play games for sure, and I spend a lot of time with a trading card game for sure. But I actually wanted to ask you, we had some of the questions here. What was the influence behind wanting to become a game developer? Was it like a game specifically, or was there something behind it? And what led you to do what you're doing today?
I don't know if there's anything really super specific in terms of like a moment. I do remember a moment where I like finally kind of like had an understanding of like how games were made, and it kind of blew my mind, where it was like, oh, this is really cool. It was just a general kind of thing of just like, well, this is something that I really enjoy doing, and I kind of want to do something that involves like, you know, some like more like some kind of like artistic field, and this seems like a cool way of doing that. And like, I always thought like 3D was really cool, and it was just like kind of a lot of those interests kind of coming together. And then I was just like, well, okay, maybe I'll see if there's any college programs or any programs in that I can learn to do that. And it was just like, it's like, oh, MSU has like one of the best programs in the country. Oh, they're like 2 hours away from me. All right, I guess I'm gonna try to go there.
Nice.
So that's kind of how that happened. But for me, there's always like a moment of like, God, how old would I have been when? And I'm trying to remember like how old I would have been in like 2004 and do the math real quick.
You would have been 10 years old. I
yes.
sure know that. So.
You do?
Yeah, dude, I know everything about Zachary. I know his name
prior to the podcast.
I'll worry about that later, but thank you. Yeah, so yeah, little baby Mr. Taters. Like we got Halo 2, like we pre-ordered that, and it comes with like this really cool making of DVD. Which those are all like, all those documentaries for that are still available like online, which is really cool that Bungie like put them all up so you can just watch them. And it was just this really cool behind the scenes of just how they made Halo 2, and I was just like, wow, it's like, oh, that people make video games. This is how they make the video game. Cool. Yeah, so that's something I always remember, just being like, wow, this is really cool.
I remember I watched a few of those for like Final Fantasy 13 and stuff. I really enjoyed that game. I guess another question. So you mentioned the artistic style and that piece of game development. So my brother, he used to at some points he kind of goes through different phases where he likes different things. And at one point in the past, he used to really be into, I don't know if you've ever played Final Fantasy Tactics. And it has all you haven't? Okay.
I'm familiar with the general part of it, and but also I've been like, because I'm such a I'm the worst when it comes to spoilers and just avoiding them, because I'm just like,
oh yeah.
So like there's kind of like a blank space where it's like I actually did buy Tactics a while back, but like, and I've been meaning to play it, but because like everyone's like, oh, it's one of the best in like anything Final Fantasy, and I'm like, yeah, I should get to that.
I should get to it. Yeah. But I remember watching him. He would like just making a sprite and all of its animations. It was just like he had, I don't know what the program was, but it was like every single sprite was just there, and it was just like every single one there was just like a minor difference. And I just feel like it's super tedious. And does it ever feel that way when you're doing the art for things, or is it something that like you enjoy all the differences and making the style and kind of putting your own personality into it?
Yeah, it kind of depends, I'd say, or for me personally, on just like what element of it is. And yeah, just as like an aside statement where it's like, yeah, sprite art is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like there's some like, you know, if you like look up like just super like old, super detailed like fighting game sprite art, or even there's tons of examples of like amazing modern day sprite art. It's crazy. Yeah, it kind of depends on which part of the process I'm doing. And then, you know, a lot of it can be like if things are clicking, then it's like, yeah, this is really fun and I can kind of get in the zone. But then there's some times where it's just like, oh no, this is just causing all these technical problems are now cropping up. And yeah, which like I have a friend of mine who's like a really good tech animator, which is like he's responsible for programming a lot of tools, as well as rigging. So like, you know, setting up skeletons for characters so they can be animated, as well as, you know, animating too. And like there's so much I need to like learn from him, where it's like when I get to the point of where I'm starting to make characters for my game, where I'm like, I have so many questions about how to make good character rigs. It's very complicated, because that's a whole beast, and that's a thing where that can be pretty frustrating when things are going wrong, because it could just be like, oh well, this node didn't connect to this in the background somewhere, that you had to bring up this other panel menu in Maya to know that was even going wrong. And it's just like, oh, okay. And that's why your character just like starts, you know, like their limbs start inverting when you play an animation. It's like, oh no.
Do a lot of your friends at Volition, like, do they work on their own like indie projects, like aside from working there?
I'm not entirely sure, actually. I do know that Volition is really good and like really fair about the whole, like, they really do encourage, like, yeah, you can work on side projects. Like, that's totally fine. I think the general deal is just like they get first right of refusal if you're seeking a publisher. Yeah, that's fair. Worst case at that point, it's like you have them as a publisher, so that's pretty good.
Well, shucks, man. Volition is my publisher. What a shame.
I mean, I guess worst case would be like, you know, they say no, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. They don't like own anything.
That sounds pretty amazing, because like they're a really big company too. So, or like not big. Well, I don't know about big, but like they're a pretty rooted game development company.
I feel like Deep Silver is pretty big.
Yeah, I didn't know if like
definitely.
Well, wait, okay, hold up, because I asked it earlier, and for some reason I just like my brain like blanked out like for a second. But like, just to clarify again, that like they are the same, right? Like Volition and Deep Silver.
I guess they are, I want to say separate, and I might be wrong on this, but from my understanding is they are separate companies, in the sense that like there wasn't a merger, it was Deep Silver acquired Volition. So it's kind of like, yeah, Deep Silver, like, so the previous thing isn't less like you know, it's more like Deep Silver owns Volition sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
As a separate entity.
Because I know like Deep Silver, like when I think of them, like the first thing that comes to my mind is like Metro, like the Metro games.
Yeah.
So.
Because they were the publisher for them.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they made the Pathfinder stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, Deep Silver's
They have
published a lot of things.
I guess I have another. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I did. I had another question for you, and this one was I personally put this one on the list because I have spent the past few years playing a lot of them, and a lot of them there's a lot of mixed feelings about them. How do you feel about early access games? And the reason where this question is coming from is I spent a great deal of time playing Daybreak's H1Z1, which was an early access game, and it just had, and even now there's another one I'm playing from a different company, and they both just have, it's like these games have so many problems, and there's a team behind them doing their, they're working and doing their thing, but it's just, I feel like a lot of games come out now that are early access, and it just feels like they're just not ready. They get put out anyway. Do you have any experiences like that, or anything that you care to share on that topic?
Yeah. So just generally, like, it can be pretty tricky with that, because especially with kind of like it's sort of like that weird kind of blurred line with some games that are kind of like that already feel like they're kind of going to be games. Like, I think that kind of comes as like, games as a service has become more and more of a thing. I think that's sort of like almost, at least in some of the bigger online early access games, I feel that might even be like kind of where things started to an extent. Mm-hmm. Where like, like things like, like PUBG did that. Was PUBG actually early access on Steam? It was early access on the Xbox.
Yeah. And
it was early
needed
access
to be
on
there
Steam
too
for a long time
because it was janky and weird. I don't. Is it out? Is it a full release now?
I think so.
What, PUBG?
It definitely is on the Xbox. Because so in the case of so it really kind of depends, because it's like that's such a kind of like broad sort of category, or at least especially in terms of like the online things, which are online games which are always being updated and trying to be improved in like a general kind of thing. But in the case of, at least I can say with Rogues, because Rogues did launch as an early access game, that actually did really help us, because we did get a lot of feedback from people that like had comments about the art style, or specifically it was specifically the lighting of the game, or is what people called the lighting, but really what it came down to was the art style, and more specifically like the colors of the game. So we kind of had to interpret that feedback and kind of understand what people meant when like the game felt like really dark, and it was mostly because like a lot of the game used like these gradients of color of it would like go like darker near the bottom and lighter near the top, and it just made the game like kind of just dark looking overall. A couple members of like the Rogues team are like, all right, like sat down and like figured that out, and really I think did like an awesome job with that, because they're like, we're gonna basically recreate like the entire color palette of this entire game, and like figure out the color palettes of all these environments, and it's like, turns out color palettes are really important. So lesson learned going forward, and that like made that game look just so much better. So that was like one thing we took away from that, as well as like various bugs and weird things that we found, and like the game as a whole just kind of evolved. Like the general design went from that, and it was always good to see like people checking it out as it was kind of in production, and it kind of gave us a bit of a second wind too when we did finally release like the full version. So it kind of depends, because like I'd say it just really varies from case to case, because definitely like, I mean, at least like with Steam, certainly like the early access thing, I feel like it's definitely supposed to be like, kind of a big warning of just like, yep, this is certainly not finished. Hopefully it will be.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that most people that are doing early access like are really trying to, get the game done and make it as good as it can be.
Yeah, because I remember before they like had early access, they were calling it Steam Greenlight. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Which was kind of the original curation process. And we did actually go through that. Although we went through that at the time when a lot of things were kind of just getting in pretty easily. And now that's just kind of completely gone. And to get on Steam, you pretty much, like, as far as I know, you kind of just have to go through like a general like application and like pay $100.
800?
I didn't know you had to do that.
Oh, no. 800. 100.
800? Oh, okay.
Because Critical did that video where he played, he was like, Someone asked him what the worst game he's ever played, and it was that $200 game on Steam, which has like one level, walk and like beat some guys up, and then the game ends, and that's like it. And it's $200, and it's on. I mean, you could go buy it right now and play it. I think, unless something happened in the past week to it or whatever.
Here's my theory with that game. I think it's early access, but my theory with the game is that it's like a front for like some kind of money laundering.
Good point.
So I wouldn't be
just
surprised.
Like
H1Z1. I think I remember Steam Greenlight being taken down during the time like Valve was like purging all like the hentai games from their store.
Well, they didn't do a very good job with that.
Yeah, they're doing something because I might be wrong here and I might be misremembering it, but I swear they were like the big reason they got rid of Steam Greenlight was like because of like all like the porn games and stuff that were getting put up on there. And Steam was just like, we don't want this as like our business image, so they like started purging stuff. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly.
It was right after PS4 started getting all these like really awful titles. Some dude at Steam came out and said, as long as it's not illegal, you can put whatever you want to in our store, and we'll be completely cool with it. I can't imagine why they would take Greenlight down to just say we're opening up the floodgates. Please.
Yeah, I think part of it just kind of became Steam and Valve probably, or well, I don't want to say probably because I don't know the reasons for why they did it, but it might have been just because Greenlight it wasn't like super hard to get through Greenlight for the most part, like as it kind of reached its later in life, as far as I know. Might be incorrect on that, but and then I think it just kind of came down to just Valve being like, well, let's just kind of cut out the middleman on this, and just kind of let people put their games up, which that there's a whole thing with that where it's like, for better or for worse, because it is great that everyone can pretty much get their game on Steam now if you want, because it was very much kind of this very curated, closed kind of garden kind of thing when it started, until it slowly kept expanding and expanding. Then the downside of that is like well, that just kind of is, it's just really hard to find maybe exactly what, well, it's not necessarily hard to find exactly what you're looking for, because you just search and their search is pretty good, but it's there's just tons of games. The whole thing is like standing out, I guess, from an indie dev perspective, of being like, yeah, you just gotta, it's kind of what it comes down to, which that's not easy either. So that's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's like trying to be a popular Twitch streamer, dude. There's like, there's thousands of other people competing with you as well.
Dude, it's like trying to be a popular podcast. You make a tweet and 4 people comment on your tweet saying, come listen to our podcast instead.
Gosh, people doing us dirty.
Zach, what are some of your favorite games, man? Or is there anything you've been playing right now that you've like really been enjoying?
So I've currently been going through Paper Mario and the Origami King, or I guess just the Origami King, whatever. Yeah, so I've been enjoying that quite a bit so far. I think I'm kind of reaching the like last third of it or so, and that's been good. I did just start up, like a friend of mine beat FF7 Remake recently, and he was curious about like, he wanted to see the original, so I've been playing through the original with him. I just started that the other night, and it's kind of crazy that just that as a thing where it's like if like if like the hours we're going for, like where we're tracking it is like, it's like, yeah, wow, the remake is just like we're gonna get through basically the entirety of like the remakes part of the plot in the 4 to 5 hour mark, where it's just like, which the remake is like 40 to 50 hours long or so, and it's just like, yeah, it really is like 10 times longer for this part, like expanded by times 10. But yeah, no, I really loved the FF7 remake. That's probably my current game of the year. Yeah, so that's been fun to go back and do that. I've been playing this is worth mentioning. I've been playing a ton of Sea of Thieves with my friends. Really like that. And those have been the most kind of like recent games. But want to talk about like favorite stuff ever, that kind of thing. down to do that too. Yeah, so
Sure.
I mean, I'm so a huge fan of like the Halo games.
Oh yeah, Halo.
And actually, like favorite games are tough, so I'm just gonna throw out things that I like. Love the Resident Evil games. I'm really excited to see more of RE8, or I guess Resident Evil Village. There's supposed to be a bit of that at like the Tokyo Game Show, I think. That's kind of like what the rumors are saying. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but like that's what people are saying. So I'm excited to see more of that, and it seems like it might be kind of like Resident Evil 4 2, and I'm really like, that'd be awesome, where it's like maybe a little bit more actiony version of RE7, but it seems like the early screenshots I'm really happy with, where it's just like, I loved RE7 in general, so it's cool seeing another first person game coming out, because we did have the remakes of 2 and 3, which I did think were like really good overall, and like there was like a couple things they were teasing, and it's like, oh my god, they're bringing back the attach A case, Resident Evil 4. Yeah, inventory Tetris. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I love Tetris, and I really want to see what they do with the werewolf people, because that's weird and very Capcom-like, but I still want to see it.
Yeah, I've been really happy with I really, as I mentioned, I really like what the direction they took with 7 in terms of like kind of bringing things back down to a smaller scale and kind of introducing like these just like different enemy type. Yeah, like I'm really interested to see, because it's what's great about the title of Resident Evil or Biohazard is it's just like that could be anything, where it's just like it's whatever fits the bill of a biohazard in some way. So it's like sure lycanthropy or something similar to that. Why not? Vampirism, I guess. Sure. There seems to be like kind of vampires and also werewolves are kind of being teased a bit, or like something that I'm sure is another thing, but like that seems to be kind of like the aesthetic they're going for, and I don't know what else. It seemed to be almost like, which this is another game that's like on the big to-do list of like games that I know are fantastic and I need to play, which is Bloodborne. There seems to be kind of like a lot of that Bloodborne aesthetic going into RE8, and I'm down for that.
I played Bloodborne probably a couple years ago, because I bought a PlayStation 4 for when Spider-Man PS4 came out, and then I also got Bloodborne. I played through both of them and then sold it, so that's kind of a shame, because I kind of want to play Bloodborne again. But I think
Bloodborne is so good. I'll pull out my gun and parry you right now if you're not careful.
I wouldn't be surprised. You are from Texas, so I think there's Sony's got some streaming service called PS Now, and you can also get it on PC, so you can stream PS4 games to your PC. And I think Bloodborne is on that.
What?
Yeah, I'll look it up. That. It's called PS Now. Yeah, you can. I think Bloodborne is on
streaming part. That's cool.
I think everything on PS Now is available to PC. Maybe.
What the fuck? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a
download
separate
the
list
PC app right now. We're going.
Yeah, it's $10 a month, and you get a huge list of games. Not sponsored, by the way.
Sony, if you want to sponsor us, by all means, I'll take your money.
Our first episode of the Bloodborne Let's Play.
Wait.
And what is this about you becoming Aquaman? I see this question over here. Is this a reference?
I don't know what that is.
He was in his stream the other day. And he said he only watched water movies and video games for
yeah, it was there was just a weird thing where it was a week or two ago where it was wow, everything I've been doing right now has had a weird nautical bent to it, where it was just it was a weirdly appropriate double feature. I don't know if I'd recommend watching these movies back to back, but I did. Which was I just one day I was I just wanted to catch up on some movies, so it's I hadn't seen Aquaman, so it's that's on on demand for Xfinity, Comcast, all that. So I was okay, I'll just turn that on as I'm working on stuff. It's it's fine adventure movie. It's but the thing was and then I'll watch The Lighthouse.
Oh, The Lighthouse is so good.
Yeah. Okay. So so kind of a horror movie. And what I actually didn't realize at the time, I was one, there's kind of a lighthouse in Aquaman that is of some significance, minor, but it's okay, it's there's that connection right there. Of course, obviously the ocean and all that, but then it's Willem Dafoe's in both of these movies, huh? Okay. And then I was just and then recently I was I'm gonna start up a playthrough of this other game, or some other games that I need to catch up on. I was I never beat the original Dishonored, and that entire game has this kind of nautical horror bent to it in the background, with just the whole theme of like whales and seafaring, and that's kind of the whole thing. And then there's a bit in Paper Mario: The Origami King where you're going through like the ocean and stuff. And then I've been playing a bunch of Sea of Thieves, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Wow, yeah, man, water themed up. All right.
Gosh, I hate water levels in like every single video game. I don't know if you guys know what wavelength I'm on, but like, dang, I think
You're really not on the wavelength of the ocean. So.
Gosh, I think it's from all the Legend of Zelda games I played, because I like hated every single water temple or water dungeon, because you're like, I'm just gonna move at like half the speed I usually do, and it takes forever to do anything. I always hated them. Now, whenever I see water in video games, I just hate it.
Okay, Peter, hear me out. In our game, the entire game is underwater.
How do I quit? Shoot, there was something you said like made me like wonder about something, and then I just like completely forgot about it. I'll think of it eventually. Oh yes, Aquaman. Speaking of Aquaman, I saw that in theaters with a friend, because he used to work at a movie theater, and he like was the projector technician, so we would get to like go watch movies at the movie theater at like 2 a.m. like just me and my friend, and we saw Aquaman, and that movie was so funny, like unintentionally funny. I don't know, what was your impression of the movie? You said it was like just like an okay adventure movie.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It was, like there was actually a couple moments early on that I was like, actually no, like I genuinely enjoyed, where it was just like it was, I don't know, like it was just kind of refreshing seeing like one, well, minor, spoilers, I don't know, something with Aquaman's dad in it, or it's just like one that he kind of just actually like, it's just, and I'm sure this is also in the comics and stuff, but it's just refreshing to see like, it's like, oh, he actually gets to have a kind of a good family relationship, like he's on good terms with his dad's like a genuinely good guy and stuff. It's like, this is actually really refreshing, given like, I don't know, there just hasn't been a ton of that in superhero movies lately, so it's just like, yeah, that's nice. I mean, there's also like things that were like, that made me kind of like raise an eyebrow logically later on in the movie, where it's just like when they're having the big battles going on, it's like, wait a second, Aquaman, I think you just caused a tremendous amount of collateral damage that also just impacted and like killed tons of your citizens as of like the next 10 minutes of the movie. Like they're all gonna be like your citizens. Don't worry, don't think about it. Shut up. Don't. cool giant monster. Don't think about it.
There's one part where there's like the antagonist. He's like, I will become Ocean Master, and every time I just die laughing every time, because he looks so stupid with the CG helmet that's like poorly fitted to his face. I don't know. I don't know how many people here in this podcast have seen it, so other than like Zach here, that's confirmed.
Oh, he's Aquaman, so he was in the movie, so he knows exactly what happened.
I was Jason Momoa the whole time, which I maybe got his last name wrong, so...
You mean you got your last name wrong?
Of course, yeah, that's what I meant.
Did we want to move on to viewer questions soon, or did we have...
Yeah, we probably should.
No, do we just want to go down the list, or did we want to like go
let's just go down the list, and we'll for the first one we can like answer really quick. It's just like what happened the last step, and that's what game me and Beater are working on. We started over. I spent it in another year or two.
That's a little generous.
Yeah, 4 more years.
4 more years.
Yeah, but we're working on it. The next question is, and I guess we can go around and answer it. It's, you have the choice between living at the North Pole or the South Pole. Which one do you choose?
All right, let's ask Zach first, since he's the guest.
I think I'm gonna go with the South Pole, just because there are people stationed in Antarctica, so I may be able to actually have like some normal life down there.
Well, there is an obvious answer to this, but I'll wait till the end to say it, and maybe one of you guys will get it.
Okay.
Beater.
Go ahead, Beater.
Okay, so I'm gonna say the North Pole, because I can't argue with being like one of like Santa's like slave workers in his sweatshop. So Christmas rush season would probably not be fun, but yeah, I'm gonna say North Pole.
You would get to drink all that eggnog. That would be really cool.
Yeah, Santa's spiked eggnog.
That's why he's jolly so much.
Now it reminds me of the what movie is it? Krampus? Krampus?
Krampus.
Yeah, Krampus.
Okay. German speaker over here.
So yeah, and I just remember I only watched like the first 20 minutes of that movie, but it was like really weird because I think it starts off in like Santa's like sweatshop, and like the elves are like all like sweating their butts off working, and then like Krampus comes and he like murders everybody. It's really dumb. That's why I turned off the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say minus the mandatory overtime during the holiday season, the North Pole sounds okay. Probably just normal 40-hour work weeks, and as long as I get weekends off to do absolutely nothing. All right, little nine, what's the real answer?
The real answer would be the South Pole, because I don't think there's a North Pole anymore. Like, it all melted away.
Oof.
You'd probably just be living in the ocean and that wouldn't be any problem for Zach because he's Aquaman.
Yeah.
But for the rest of you might have a hard time. But you might see a polar bear swimming around with a bottle of Coke. So, I mean, that's something else, too. That was a beautiful question. What's your greatest fear and why? Asked by CutiePie420 Ooh.
All right, hold up. Should we have some ground rules? Should we like with this question like?
Yeah, don't make it like sad. But I was scared of fire ants because they ate my brother.
What?
Greatest fear is probably falling off something really tall. You would like fall and then you'd hit the ground and then you'd probably blow up or something.
It's over. I mean,
yeah. I guess it depends on how high up you were. If you fell off the moon and shot into the earth,
you probably die before you even got close to the ground. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't think there's any air on the moon.
Oh, okay, let's just say you're wearing a spacesuit though, and you have oxygen. Let's just say you would probably die way before you hit the Earth because entering the atmosphere.
Well, that would probably be scary if you were just like floating around and then you lit on fire.
I'm actually glad you brought up the concept of space as a whole, just in terms of one where it's like, you know, in terms of a fear where it's like yeah, this isn't gonna be like, you know, like barring some horrible catastrophe or whatever, but it's like, yeah, actually that'd be a pretty big one, which is like, yeah, just floating away into space.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty bad. That might be the reason where I'm like, yeah, you know, I think I'm good on going to space. Yeah, I could actually pass on that.
Yeah, nobody can hear you scream in space, dude. You'll just be up there.
Yep.
I'll go ahead now with mine. My biggest fear is like drowning. Like, I don't know, like the idea of like not being able to breathe and stuff like really bothers me. So, and like being underwater, like having like literally no option and you like just can't breathe. It just seems really scary.
Mine's not going to be as serious, but mine would be if I just didn't have any water. If there was no more water anywhere anymore. I woke up, went to the shopping center, and boom, there's no water on the shelves. Everyone's walking around all fine. No one even notices. I'm like, guys, there's no water. What is it? What did you say? I feel like, guys, we're gonna die.
What's water?
Water. So that is my greatest fear.
That sounds like a pretty solid setup for like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
True.
I gotta grab this cup mid-podcast and it's empty. Where's my water?
Dude, that would be like the reverse of Beater, where you'd like reverse drown because you couldn't drink anymore, but Beater would be drinking too much.
What would be your dream home, but what would be your nightmare home? Asked Kevin James.
Wait, what? In the perspective of Kevin James.
The nightmare home would be a house built out of Mall Cop DVDs, I guess.
Oh, shoot. That's funny.
My dream home would just be like some nice place. I was talking about the other day how water scares the fuck out of me. But if I had a house built underwater and you could look out into the ocean and see fish and stuff swimming around, that'd be pretty cool. And for my nightmare home, it would be the same thing, but there was a leak.
Zach, do you have an answer for this one?
For dream home, that's kind of hard. I don't know, just I guess a fairly large house with like a nice yard. Nothing super exciting on that, I guess. For a nightmare home, I feel like that would have to be just like, it'd be like everything is like slightly off or just doesn't work quite right. So it's just like this, cavalcade of like minor inconveniences that just keep happening all the time. And of course, it wouldn't be consistent either. Like they'd have to be like slightly wrong differently each day. And then just to get really stupid with this, it's like, I don't know. And then just every day you're guaranteed to like step on a Lego or something. Like you don't know when it's going to happen. It will happen every day.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
And at the end of the day, you get in your bed and you watch Mall Cop. That's exactly every day.
I would definitely want a home with like a golf course on it, like where there's like a golf course outside. I love golf, so I'd play that every day. I'd also want to live in a different country where like rally is a thing or like more popular, because like whenever I talk to motorsports fans here, everybody's just like, what's a rally? And I'm like, huh? I don't know. It's like trying to find like an American that doesn't like talk. Like it's so hard to find people here that like Formula One and rally, like either or. So yeah, I'd probably live in some European country. And let's also think here real quick. I wouldn't want that big of a house. I just like want a decent game room, and I also want like a room dedicated to like VR, because I play my VR headset quite a bit, so I just don't have a lot of room, so I don't get the cool experiences everybody else. So that's about it for Dream Home.
Fun fact, while you were talking about the Formula One, I saw like a GIF the other day where it was like extreme slow motion of like a car taking off and just seeing the way the tire looks for like a split.
Oh yeah,
it looks like the tire would just get destroyed, but it just shows you how neat tires are and how they function and stuff. It was really cool. Yeah, tires. Anyway.
Yeah, dude, tires.
Yeah, Michelin, sponsor us. Let's see. Nightmare Home.
I wouldn't. Help?
No. So I have one in mind. Like my aunt and uncle, they used to live on this like farmhouse for a little bit. Like they bought like this mansion, like really inexpensively out in Wisconsin. And I've been there before, and it's just like, there's like wolf spiders everywhere. They don't live there anymore, but when we go to visit, they'd have like wolf spiders everywhere. Like under the doorknobs too. So like sometimes you like go to open up a door and you're like, this door feels fuzzy. But like I just wouldn't want to live in like I wouldn't want to live in an old house because they're usually like noisy, and like I don't believe in ghosts and stuff, and we did talk about this once on like a podcast, like paranormal stuff. And like I don't know, just hearing noises at night would really bother me. I would not be able to sleep just like from a creaky house. That's pretty much my nightmare home.
I'd like to add to my nightmare home. It would be underwater with a leak, but there's also be a trapdoor every square foot, and you never know when they're going to open. And this one's beautiful. It's among all of us here in the chat. Who do you think would be chosen to fight an alien if need be?
James. Yo, I feel like James is like a closet badass, and he'd be so ready to fight an alien.
I'm the kind of guy, like, sometimes when I'm here in my apartment, I think about like situations like if someone was being held at gunpoint and what I would do. And I love to just fantasize that I could do something amazing or life-saving in the moment. But realistically, no, it's not the same. I'm not.
When you would go out and fight the aliens, you just scream at them really loud, like you won a game of Fall Guys, and they'd be like, "Oh shit, we're not fucking with that kid."
Let me put this down in my notes so I'm ready. But if you guys have, if the people have chosen me, I will go. I will.
Well, we don't know what Zach's answer is yet. He might choose somebody completely different, like the two robots that are sitting in our chat.
It's a vote.
No, I think you could take him.
Dude, everybody, you're going to go up. He's going to run away in terror, and you're going to go into the mothership and take all of them out.
What a deep question.
I had asked for video game questions, and we got all of these.
Epic.
Yeah. I guess that does it, unless you guys want to talk about some more stuff before I send us all off into our lovely weeks.
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Taters, for joining us today, man. It was really neat to hear about game development, on your side. I even imagine when you're playing games, it's probably a bit different, or you probably look at things differently a bit. And shout outs to you guys for, you and the thousands of others who have made the countless games that we've all played, and just game development's a really amazing thing, and it's done a lot of good for the world. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Say thank you to our theme song.
Do we have a theme song?
Yeah, we have a theme song.
Wow,
We've had one for like 12 weeks.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, he means like the tune that plays at the beginning of the podcast.
Okay, I was just like, what?
Chill Day by Lakey inspired.
Yeah, what do you think I was talking about? Like every time we talk, it just starts.
Well, you know, like when you, I don't know, when you go turn on your like Saturday cartoons or something, you have like the Power Rangers or something. I don't know.
We should get on Fiverr and make somebody make a theme song for us. That would probably be kind of awesome. Where can we find you guys at? Well, where can we find you, Zach? Your Twitch channel, your Twitter.
Yeah. You can find me at Twitch / Mr. _Taters, or at my Twitter, which is at Zklegon. That's ZKLEGON, because I'm not going to fault anyone for not understanding how to spell that.
And what about this podcast? Does this podcast have a Twitter account?
That it does. I was waiting for everybody to finish talking before I talked about it. Twitter account for this is NVGWW. Where you can see me being attacked by other people to listen to their trash podcasts.
Hey,
and you can send us viewer questions. I don't care how weird they are. I will probably read them. Well, I do care if they're really weird. Please don't send us weird things. And if you're on YouTube, dude, subscribe. You're not subscribed yet? Bro, what are you even doing in your life? Probably nothing important.
No.
Yeah, that's like a way to get us unsubscribed. All right. It's we good with things now. We're gonna wrap up.
Yeah, I think we should all say goodbye. Goodbye.
All right, yo, goodbye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.